Hi everyone. Today, I want to talk about four feelings that most people are eager to escape: boredom, melancholy, emptiness, and despair. When modern people experience these emotions, they usually look for medical or psychological explanations. Has something gone wrong in the body? Has the past left behind some form of trauma? Has the brain's chemistry fallen out of balance? These questions matter. If an emotional state begins to affect sleep, work, or eating over a long period, or leads someone to think about harming themselves, philosophy cannot replace medical care or psychological treatment. Philosophy asks one further question. Beyond the question of treatment, could these emotions also reveal something true about being human? What if boredom is more than having nothing to do? What if melancholy is more than feeling low? What if emptiness is more than lacking a goal? And what if despair is more than pain reaching its highest point? What do these emotions allow us to see? The 20th century, German philosopher Martin Heidegger rejected the idea that emotions are merely private feelings trapped inside the mind. In Being and Time, and later in his lectures on boredom, he was not mainly concerned with how people could improve their mood. He was asking a deeper question. How does emotion reveal the conditions of human existence? For Heidegger, we do not first stand outside the world, observe a completely neutral reality, and then color it with emotion. From the beginning, we are already living within the world. Emotion, or what Heidegger calls an attunement, is one of the ways the world reveals itself to us. The same room may feel like home when we feel safe. In fear, that same room may feel like a trap. The physical surroundings have not changed. What has changed is the way the world approaches us. So emotion is not simply a filter placed over the world afterward. It is more like an entrance. Through emotion, the world appears to us in a particular form. The four emotions we will discuss today are not stages in a fixed process of decline. They do not necessarily appear in order. Each one reveals a different kind of fracture. Boredom reveals a fracture between a person and time. Melancholy reveals a fracture between a person and the world. Emptiness reveals a fracture between a person and meaning. Despair reveals the fracture between a person and the self. Let us begin with boredom. Heidegger devoted a great deal of attention to boredom. For him, it was not a small or insignificant problem of everyday life. Boredom can suddenly reveal that our lives have always been structured by time. Normally, we hardly notice time. Time is absorbed into whatever we are doing. We move toward a result, wait for a possibility, or allow ourselves to be pulled forward by a future that has not yet arrived. Time does not flow only because the hands of a clock are moving. More importantly, we are moving towards some possibility. The simplest form of boredom appears when we are held up by a particular situation. Imagine waiting for a train that refuses to arrive. There is nothing to do at the station. Time stretches out, and every minute becomes impossible to ignore. But Heidegger was more interested in a deeper form of boredom. Here, it is not one particular thing that bores us. Everything has lost its power to attract us. Work continues as usual. No obvious disaster has occurred, but nothing feels genuinely worth anticipating. At this point, time does not merely slow down. It begins to lose its direction. The past loses its weight. The present becomes mere continuation. The future no longer calls to us. Time continues, but it no longer carries us anywhere. This is what makes profound boredom so disturbing. It does not merely reveal a lack of stimulation. It reveals that a person's time has lost its orientation. This is why boredom often drives people toward more stimulation. We keep images and sounds moving so that attention never has to settle. Stimulation can only help us forget time for a moment. It cannot give time a new direction. An evening can be completely filled, and yet a life may still have no idea where it is going. The real question raised by boredom is not, what else can make me feel excited? It is, what possibility is still worth letting my time flow toward? If boredom reveals that time has lost its direction, melancholy reveals a different problem. The world is still there, but it no longer opens itself to us. Normally, the world we encounter is not simply a collection of meaningless objects. A chair invites us to sit. A road leads somewhere. A telephone allows us to reach another person. Something belongs to our world not only because it exists. It belongs because it has a relationship with our lives. But in melancholy, this web of relationships begins to loosen. Familiar people are still there. Familiar places have not disappeared. But they lose their ability to approach us. You remember that something once made you happy. Reason tells you that it should still be worth anticipating. But when it finally arrives, nothing happens inside you. This is more than a lack of motivation. The world no longer offers you a way in. In 1917, Sigmund Freud distinguished between two different forms of loss in mourning and melancholia. A person who mourns usually knows what has been lost. Melancholy is less clear. A person senses that something has been lost, but cannot clearly say what has left them. The loss seems to sink into the self. Eventually, the dimming of the world becomes a judgment against the person as well. This is what makes melancholy deeper than ordinary sadness. Sadness still preserves a relationship. We suffer because something once mattered to us. Melancholy allows the relationship itself to lose its weight. The person no longer knows what is still capable of touching them. They may no longer know whether they still belong to the world in front of them. Melancholy reveals the invisible connection between a person and the world. When that connection becomes thin, the world does not disappear. It simply stops answering. Next comes emptiness. People often imagine that emptiness comes from failing to obtain what they want. But deeper emptiness often appears after the goal has already been reached. Before a goal is achieved, a person can blame all dissatisfaction on the distance that remains. Just go a little further. Just reach that result. Then life will finally feel complete. But when the result finally arrives, the person discovers that they are still not complete. This is where Jean-Paul Sartre enters the discussion. Sartre was active in 20th century France. War, occupation, and the collapse of old values forced his generation to confront a difficult question. When the outside world no longer provides a stable answer, how should a person understand themselves? Sartre rejected the idea that human beings possess a fixed essence. A letter opener is designed with a clear purpose already in mind. Human beings are different. We exist first. Then, through our actions, we gradually determine what we will become. This also helps explain what Sartre means by nothingness. Nothingness is not a black hole inside the heart. It is a special capacity of consciousness. Human beings can create a distance between themselves and the identity they currently possess. A person may hold a particular position, but they still know they are more than that position. They may achieve what others call success. They can still step back, look at everything they have achieved and ask, what now? This distance makes freedom possible, but it also makes emptiness possible. No identity can permanently contain a human being. No achievement can completely end the question, who am I? A person believes that what they lack is a goal, so they place the full weight of meaning upon that goal. Once it is achieved, they discover, completing a task is not the same as completing a person. What emptiness reveals is not that we have obtained too little. It reveals that no external result can complete us on our behalf. Wealth, love, and achievement can all transform a life, but none of them can answer this question alone. Why should you continue becoming this particular person? With despair, the problem no longer concerns only time, the world, or meaning. It reaches the self directly. The 19th century Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard lived in what appeared to be a stable Christian society. Most people had clear social identities. They also knew how society expected them to live. Kierkegaard believed that this stability might exist only on the surface. A person can live exactly as society expects, and yet never truly take responsibility for the task of becoming themselves. In The Sickness Unto Death, published under the pseudonym Anticlimacus, Kierkegaard offers a difficult but important definition. The self is not a fixed object. The self is a relationship. More precisely, it is the way a person relates to themselves. A person knows what they already are. They can also see what they might become. Then they must endure the process of becoming themselves, between limitation and possibility, reality and ideal. Despair appears when this relationship falls into disorder. Some people never truly realize that they must become a self. They simply live as everyone else lives. Others have already seen themselves, but cannot accept what they see and spend their lives trying to escape. There is also the person who refuses to accept limitation and insists on defining themselves entirely through their own power. This may look like strength, but such a person cannot accept failure, dependence, or the parts of life that cannot be controlled. These conditions appear different, but they share one thing: the person cannot genuinely become themselves. Despair is therefore not simply the highest intensity of pain. A person can suffer deeply without being in despair. Another person can appear calm, function normally, and even possess everything others admire, while still living in despair in Kierkegaard's sense. Because the real question is not, how much pain am I feeling? It is, can I acknowledge this self and accept responsibility for becoming it? The deepest wish within despair is often not simply to end suffering. It is to escape the self that is suffering. But a person cannot shed the self like a coat. Wherever they go, this relationship remains. This is why Kierkegaard calls despair the sickness unto death. It does more than remove happiness. It makes the self unable to live in relation to itself. Only now can we understand these four emotions differently. They are not stages in a process that moves from mild to severe. They are four different forms of revelation. Boredom reveals that time has lost its direction. Melancholy reveals that the world is moving away. Emptiness destroys the illusion that an external goal can complete a person. Despair exposes a fracture in the relationship between the self and itself. But here, we must preserve an important distance. Emotion has the power to reveal. It does not have the authority to judge. Boredom may accurately reveal that a life has lost its direction, but it cannot prove that nothing is worth continuing. Melancholy may make a person genuinely feel that the world no longer approaches them. That feeling cannot decide by itself that the world has no value. Emptiness can expose the limitations of a particular goal, but it cannot prove that every pursuit is meaningless. Despair may reveal a fracture in a person's relationship with the self, but when it says, "You will never change," it is no longer merely revealing something. It has begun passing judgment on the future. This is the contradiction within emotion. It may allow a real problem to appear for the first time, but it may also disguise its own interpretation as the final answer. So philosophy does not respond to emotion by immediately trying to destroy it, nor does it worship emotion blindly. It does not treat every form of suffering as a malfunction, but it also refuses to romanticize suffering simply because pain can reveal something. Pain does not automatically make a person profound. Despair does not automatically lead to rebirth. Emotion merely opens a crack. Through that crack, things normally hidden by busyness, social roles, and habit can become visible. Time loses direction. The world stops responding. Goals fail to complete a person, and the self may gradually become unable to bear itself. The crack is not the answer. It simply makes it impossible to keep pretending that the problem does not exist. So emotion is not proof that the soul possesses the truth. It is proof that the soul can still be wounded by its own existence. As long as these questions can still wound us, time, the world, meaning, and the self have not yet been reduced to a numb background. Emotion will not complete our thinking for us. It only brings us to the place where thinking begins. What matters is not immediately sealing the crack, nor should we kneel before it and mistake pain for truth. What matters is seeing clearly. What is beginning to reveal itself through that opening? A heart that has completely fallen asleep is no longer disturbed by any question. Boredom, emptiness, and despair are not things to celebrate, but they reveal that one question is still alive. How am I actually living? And your soul has not entirely fallen asleep.